Alright guys, welcome. It's been a little while since we've had a flipped classroom lecture. We have a real quick lecture today just outlining what discussion's going to look like and the expectation around asking questions. This is a great use of the flipped classroom lecture style because it's information you guys all need, but it's not necessarily stuff that we need to be sitting in class for when we can be using that time to have discussions and ask questions about the text instead of just having to go through procedures and expectations. So anyway, there's 3 more slides on this. It should take about 10 or 15 minutes just to walk through it, and that way you guys will know what to do on Thursday. Alright, here we go. So the logistics, how things are going to work, real basically there'll be 2 groups, an inner group which is discussing and an outer group which is actively questioning. What I mean by that, with that actively questioning, is the questions that the outer group asks are the questions that the inner group is going to discuss. So the inner group has to discuss what the outer group wants it to, but it's the outer group's responsibility to be listening and asking more questions and throwing more questions out there to drive the discussion for the inner group. This is a different way of doing discussion. We haven't really done one like this before. I'll be excited to see how it works with both groups kind of participating in different ways for each discussion. Up on the projector, you guys will see me track. I will be tracking participation, but also the time spent on each topic, on each question. One of the things we're going to do on the day after the discussion is go back and actually look a little bit at how many questions did we talk about, how long did we spend on each question, how many people talked on each question, and really try to look at some actual data and see what we can do to make our discussions better. During this discussion, in order to get 100%, if you want to know what it's going to take to get the A, in order to get 100%, then you need to be involved in all of these. You need to be discussing when you're in the inner group, you need to be asking questions when you're in the outer group, you need to be participating, and you need to be making sure that you're participating for each topic. And that's what it's going to take in order to earn 100% on this discussion. Expectations. Now that we're getting close, basically into the second semester of senior year, we really want to be asking questions that are college-level questions, questions that are seeking to do something with the text, to explore an idea inside the text, and that aren't just questions that stay very surface level, that ask about why something happened or like what you think about this character. But we really want to start to think about like purpose and motivation and big ideas within the text. There's nothing wrong with asking why a character does something, but we want to make sure, in terms of a motivation question, but we want to make sure that it's connected in somehow, maybe to a bigger idea or to something like that. Talking about how Milkman's motivations change throughout the novel, or how he as a character changed, that is a valuable question. Asking why you think Hagar slept with Milkman, not as valuable of a question unless it goes deeper and seeks to understand what is that saying about Hagar's character. Is that saying something about Pilate? Is that saying something about women? What is the reason there? Then that becomes a more interesting, more valuable question. When we talk about big ideas, we haven't explicitly sat down and listed some big ideas from the text, but there certainly are large themes that show up throughout the text. One of them is the cost of freedom. One of them is obviously this idea of identity and how we make our identity, whether we're like Macon and we Milkman's father, and we make our identity through owning things, whether we're like Pilate and we kind of make our identity through our actions and the way that we help other people. That would be another big idea. Those are the kinds of things that we want to be thinking about for questions like this. This idea is the cost of freedom, of losing everything, which is the cost, is that worth it? This is the question that's going to take us out from the text, and this is a question that's going to be based off your guys' opinions and your own kind of thoughts on the matter. These are the questions that are not questions with a right or wrong answer, obviously, but questions that are really going to to push the discussion to a more college level than just sitting around and talking about why characters did something, is when you're actually bringing in your own opinions on the text and using the text to support your opinions and saying, well, when it says here, then I know that this is helping me understand things of that nature. Which brings me to the other piece of the expectations, which is not on here. But we always are going to stay grounded in textual evidence. And so on Wednesday, what we're actually going to do is spend time in class going through and finding textual evidence to support different ideas you have, building some page numbers that you can refer to when you're trying to suggest why something's important, or how you know something's important, because it shows up in all these different pages. And so we're going to make sure that we are well prepared with textual evidence, because a discussion that we can back up with examples from the text is going to be a discussion that allows more people to understand the text and engage with the text, because they're going to be able to look at those same places and see connections that maybe they had missed before. So very simply here, this is our room setup. The inner circle here, the red circle, is going to be our group that's actually doing the discussion. And then the black circle here is going to be the group that is asking the questions. And as they come up with new questions or interesting ideas or ways to drive the conversation, then they will ask them. Now this will be a little bit unique, because the red group, obviously, some of the things that they will bring up will be questions, but for the most part, the red group's job is just to discuss. That when the black group member asks them a question, that their job is then to just give their opinions and build off one another's opinions. Obviously, this is a fluid situation, and the black group cannot just continue to shout out questions, that they have to wait for the conversations to develop, and that's what will take some practice, and that will take some fine-tuning. But we'll see how this works, and have this way that way everybody is participating, that the inner group is having the discussion and the outer group is actively listening to that discussion and thinking of other connections or ways that they could make, ways that they could drive or change the conversation. So that's the basic outline for discussion on Thursday. We will talk on Wednesday when we start to look for textual evidence and find support, but we really are not going to have another run through of the protocols, because that's what Flipped Classroom is for. So please, on Wednesday, if you have any questions about the lecture, make sure you ask so we can make sure everyone's on the same page, because other than that clarification session, we will just be jumping in on Thursday. All right. Hope you guys have a good evening.